It's 6 p.m. I would like to call the September 12th, 2023 meeting of the Citizens Public Safety Review and Appeal Board to order. Roll call, please.
Jason Allen.
Present.
Christopher Caldwell. Wally Ferrara.
Present.
Luis Garcia. Curtis Gardner.
Here.
Ebony Hemphill.
Present.
Barbara Miller.
Here.
Vernon Payne.
Here.
Susan Stapleton.
Here.
Larry Tolbert.
Present.
Thank you for being here tonight. Public comments will be accepted during the times as indicated on today's meeting agenda. Community members that wish to provide public comments over the phone can call 888-382-9556 during the citizen comments period. They will enter a queue and will be prompted to offer their comments in turn. Callers will be commenting to the board live and will no longer be able to leave a recorded message.
Thank you, Ms. Dusick. In your package, you received the board minutes from our July 11th meeting. Are there any corrections, additions, deletions to the minutes? Hearing none, is there a motion to adopt the minutes?
I'll make that motion.
Second?
Second.
It's been moved and second to adopt the minutes. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Minutes are adopted. PCR report. Inspector Mason.
Check, check. Ooh, there we go. Good evening, everyone. You have before you the professional standards PCR breakdown report. Does everyone have the one that's updated through August? Okay. As of the end of August, there were 19 PCRs. Unfortunately, what I only have for me is through, oh, here's the rest of it, never mind. Through the end of the August, we had PCRs 12 through 19 were open investigations with the exception of 14, which was under the Chief's review. Does anyone have any questions about what we have so far this year?
I have a question.
Yes, Marilyn.
Just from my own knowledge,
Yes.
what escalates something from open to Chief's review?
So the Chief's review is the part of the investigation where my report has been completed, and the report is before Chief Boyson for review, and then he'll make his final determination. After his determination is made, it comes back to my office, and that's when I update it with the final disposition. So you'll see the other ones like PCR 11, for example, came back from the chief with a finding of unfounded. So that PCR 14 is in that status where he's currently reviewing it. So I believe as of today, which of course will be reflected in next month's report, I believe there are 2 additional PCRs which are under the chief's review.
Thank you.
Yes, absolutely.
Are there any other questions? Thank you. Officer of Professional Standards, OPS, presentation, Assistant Chief Green.
Good evening, everyone. Chairman, City, and rest of the board members. This evening, we're going to discuss a couple of things we've been talking about, just to give you an overview of where we are as we close up the IR report. I think it was March, and we'll give you an update on that. Also, we're going to talk about the My 90, and you can go ahead and go to the next slide also, please. And we're going to also talk about the 2013 traffic stop study, but specifically what we have done since 2013 and what we have and are doing in the present and in the future. So we just follow me right here on the PowerPoint. If you do need a copy of it, I'd be happy to provide that to you after the presentation. Thank you. As you know, back in March, and matter of fact, I want to thank some of the board members who participated in the community meeting. We had a community meeting to discuss all the recommendations that the OIR came out with the incidents back in 2020. We had meetings that followed in the community. One was in March 16th of 2023. The other one followed on March 23rd. And we had David Wakely, the Human Energy, to discuss as a facilitator, in which the committee itself who met went over all the recommendations that came from the IR report and also went over the IR report specifically. We had the KDPS team that came and discussed it in great detail, answered a lot of questions from the report, and then we presented this to the city commissioners during the city commission meeting. Go to the next one, please. The most fascinating thing that came out of it is that after all this was presented to everyone and we went through it, David Whitley presented the findings of the report, in which we also presented to the city. And he said the main focus of the first session was to present by KDPS staff how they responded to the feedback and recommendations, including examples of applications in 2020. We learned a lot from that. We have progress. We have changed our policies. We have changed a lot of our procedures, and we got quite a bit of sensitive information from the community. And at the conclusion of the second, which was March 23rd, all participants were asked that we made sure that they had all their questions and everything that was answered. The transparency on the transparency page also covers in great detail, as your subcommittees came back with all of the findings that we have. I'd be happy to, when I get done with the presentation, to answer any specific questions that you may have, but we were quite extensive in that with the two community meetings that we had. Next one, please. As we went from the OIR report, one of the reports that we've been constantly dealing with is from the traffic stop study in 2013 and what we as a department have accomplished since then. I'm going to give you an overall view of a 30,000-foot view of what Kalamazoo Department of Public Safety has done. And I'm going to say that we are intentionally, from 2013 to 2023, a 10-year span, has intentionally did a culture change within the department, a culture change for the positive, in a sense. So let me just tell you a few things that we've accomplished. One is that we improve our communications not only internally but externally with the community, with our neighborhoods. We created procedures when we talk about search and seizure and legal versus legitimate. Basically, how do we get consent, make sure that we're doing accountability and checks and balance when we do it? Do we have reasonable suspicion when we do search and seizure, whether it's from a traffic stop or from any other way? Police legitimacy or procedural justice, train the trainer for impartial policing. You hear that a lot. FIP, which is a national program. We just sent 2 of our officers at different seniorities and also different rank who are now certified trainers in the FIP. and one is a command officer, one is a patrol officer, and they're going to start implementing new training for our new officers, and also a review for us this coming up early 2024. I don't know if you had opportunity, but when we have new recruits that just been hired in, we want to make sure not only that they know the different communities and the neighborhoods within the city of Kalamazoo, but we've also have good partnership to learn about the historical of police and community relations at the national level. So we take them to Detroit, to the Dr. Charles H. Wright Museum. We take them to the Holocaust Museum. We're also looking at implementing some other museums, such as the Arab American Museum, other museums that can make sure that whoever they come across with in the community, that it be well informed. Our crisis intervention team, 33% of our officers are certified at the state level for crisis intervention. And that reflects the county, but Kalamazoo Public Safety, along with our partner ISK and other agencies, we have another training that's coming up in November for our officers. It's a week-long training which they receive their certifications. Organizational culture, sexual harassment and discrimination, which we have partnered with the city of Kalamazoo to do our training there. Each of you, and also as a committee, has talked a lot about de-escalation training. And when we talk about de-escalation training, one of the things that we do in professional standards that we look at, not only could the officer have de-escalated the situation, but more importantly, once whatever force may have been used, did the officer de-escalate appropriately afterwards? So it's the two things. Not only we hope that we can get a person to de-escalation, but more importantly, we can get them to compliance. So when we talk about de-escalation training, not only are we bringing in external folks, we have internal folks that would do it trainer, and then also we put officers through tabletops and scenario-based. Matter of fact, all the chiefs and several officers are going through some de-escalation training now. We went through it earlier. Implicit bias, unconscious bias, we have several people, especially from the division I'm part of, diversity, equity, inclusion within the department. We have implicit bias training as part of our accreditation process with the state of Michigan. We have a national trainer that's coming in 2024 to do the whole entire department about implicit bias and how it works, not only when we talk about community, but how do we use it when we're on patrol. Field Training Office, FTO, several of you have been on ride-alongs with us, we thank you, but we modified since 2013 our Field Training Officer. So a Field Training Officer program is the program in which new recruits that went through all the academy, went through all the in-house training, they are observed for 3 to 4 months with another officer in 4 different stages. Our FTO program is one of the national programs that we use for models to make sure each of the probation officers succeed through the FTO program. If they do not pass, they are not released to go out on the street on their own. So it's a pretty intense FTO program. And finally, the new training that we've been talking about a lot, and which I will refer to also in the My 90 report, is procedural justice. Procedural justice came from the 21st Policing, and procedural justice, remember, as we talked about it, is how officers allow citizens to not only have a voice, also have they been heard, did the officer take the time out to explain what the contact, why they made contact, whether it was dealing with a traffic stop, or if it was rather dealing from a 911 call. We made sure the officers are trained and we follow all these different steps, and we will cover that a little bit more in the My 90 presentation. A couple other things I want to know that we have changed since 2013, but not only 2013, what we constantly changed today. Use of force tracking, a lot of the cases that we're dealing with, we show, as Inspector Mason say, we track all our use of force whenever it's used. National use of force reporting accreditation. We just went through our mock training with the state of Michigan, had folks from different parts of the other departments come in and look at every single one of our policies. We have our final review in March and November, and fingers crossed, we will be certified for the next 3 years of all our policies according to the state of Michigan. KSOC, Kalamazoo Strategic Operations Center, where we usually have our training was also created after 2013. We created a division called Diversity, Equity, Inclusion. Police Athletic Club, given out into the community crime reduction team. And as you can see, all these other ones. Community service team is brand new, where we have a civilian dealing with our unhoused, and also instead of going strictly to enforcement, how can we provide resources to our unhoused before hopefully that enforcement will be the absolute last thing that we can do. Emergency food pantry, and we've been talking a lot about meaningful reviews. And you've been extensively trained, you will continuously be trained on our body-worn cameras. We are in the process, I don't know if I can say this public, but I will, of putting in the 2024 budget to get new, even improved body cameras, not only from body cameras that our officers wear, but in-car cameras. So we're really excited about that opportunity. Crowd management team and our new team called our Bike Response Unit, which you may see them maybe another month or so riding around before the weather changes. Now, as we bring the last part, then I'll be opening up to questions. Remember back in April, we talked about this new pilot program called Mind 90. And Mind 90 means that it's a national program where 90% of the information, or 90% of information from citizens we are not capturing. So Mind 90 is a program in which we survey citizens when officers make contact. Remember, it's 3 stages. One is that when the citizen make contact, 911 dispatch. So dispatch the officer to wherever the place may be. So that's the first place. Second place is traffic stop studies, surveys, I should say. And the last one deals with, we do an internal survey to our officers, see how are they doing and what do we need to provide more support or even self-care for them. I know the Citizens Review Board here talked a lot about that pillar of self-care for officers. Go ahead, we're gonna give you some statistics. Now, I just wanna let you know also, this is on our transparency page. I think I was told this day that the dashboard is working, but that's IT stuff. So we're fingers crossed that it is working, that you can go to the transparency page. But these are numbers gathered from April to the present. And remember, we started off as a pilot program. We have fully engaged My 90 as we continue to grow into it. So it's no longer, I can confidently say it's no longer a pilot program. It is now implemented into our everyday process. So on the national level, My 90 is anonymous survey. When the officer makes contact with you, in this case it's a traffic stop, I pass out to each one of you the My 90 card. I know we have 2 members on the board who may not have seen this. On the back of the card is a scan code. So when the officer makes a traffic stop, or after the traffic stop is over, the officer hands you this card and you have the option to fill it out and ask those procedural justice questions, which we will go to shortly. So I gave you an example of it. Since April, this anonymous and the organization that we did it through Exxon said that most departments only have maybe less than an 8%, 6% return on their surveys completely. We're close to 10%. And we're showing that the number is growing up a little higher. So of the 189 responses, it was almost 1,800 traffic stops where that was provided. We did 1,800 traffic stops since April to the present moment. Now, I want to give you a reference to this real quick that I mentioned earlier. In 2013, for the whole year, we, as Kalamazoo Department of Public Safety, did over 20,000 traffic stops. Fast forward to 2023, we're down to half of that. And it has a lot to do that we're much more concentrated, much more directive when we do the traffic stop. Now, most of the time when we provide a traffic stop, because of the calls for service, very seldom is it proactive because we have so many calls for service. But when we have neighborhoods or online, when they come in and said, the number one complaint that we receive in most of all the neighborhood is that speeders, some type of traffic enforcement, and they're asking us to come in and do some type of traffic enforcement. So that's where you get a lot of our traffic stop, but we're very much more intentional with our traffic stop. And how does traffic stops relate to reducing crime? just not sporadically making stops. Of the, so we had 189 responses. I don't know how well you can see it. We provide, again, it's on our transparency page. A couple of things, when I asked for those 2 negative ones right there, I don't know if you can see it, it's the little red dot right there. I don't remember what the one was, but one was, and we looked at the comments, so that's how we don't know who made the comments. The person was upset because the officer called for a backup unit. However, the comment also said, but we hope we have more officers like that officer who treated me fairly. So it was a kind of a balance between negative and positive. But 112 positive responses, 112 very positive responses, 22 positive, again, 9 neutral. Again, when you fill this out, it's completely anonymous. We don't know who says it in, but we have this third party that give us this database. Next slide, please. This gives the questions that we asked in the survey on traffic stop feedback. Did the officer introduce themselves? Did the officer explain why? We have policies. Officers have to introduce themselves. The officer have to explain why did we make the traffic stop. What was the outcome of the traffic stop? And then did the officer explain what you need to do if you receive the citation? So those give you the different percentages of yes, they did, and as you can see in different colors. Now we're getting into, again, this is dealing with the traffic stop. Then the next segment, we go to the 911 calls. It gives you the overall percentage of how people responses were. Did they, and specifically from the procedure justice questions, such as how did they view the agency overall? Did the officer treat you with respect? And again, this is from the citizen's view, not from the officer's view. Were you treated fairly? Did you feel that the officer listened to you? Did you understand what they were told and had any questions that you have? And this is also dealing with whoever fills it out, whether they received the citation or they even got a warning. Next question, please. And this gives the breakdown of the demographics, male, race, and we're really excited also, as you know, that the different generations within this survey also is able to be captured. Next slide, please. Now, we're going to go into, in the Kalamazoo, Michigan Department of Public Safety, that's the DPS, that's what's there. Again, this is off their transparency page, so we just transferred right over. Next slide, please. This deals with the contact of 911 calls when someone has called the dispatch. Now remember, when someone's called the dispatch, when the officer received, they will receive a text, the citizen will receive a text to say, are you willing to fill out this survey? And a text usually comes 8 or 9 hours later, just so everyone can feel comfortable. We do not send out texts if it's a physical crime or assault or a couple other serious stuff. So it gives you an idea of the outcome. On 82% responded, 16,000 calls. Of the 16,000 calls, 2,000 people responded back to it with a 12% rate on that return, which again, on the other departments, it was less than 8%. So we have our citizens responding to this. Next slide, please. These are the procedure justice questions again for the dispatch, and they ask those specific questions. Have you been treated? Have you been treated fairly? Were you listened to? Did you have any questions? And it gives you the breakdown of from April 2023 to all the way up to the present moment. Next question. And this gives you also the breakdown by race. Next slide. Now, and then this is the second to last slide, and I'd be happy to answer any questions that you have. One of the most important questions we have that we ask the citizens is that what is your biggest concern here at Kalamazoo Department of Public Safety? Now remember, My 90 gives us instant feedback from the community. This is just one tool compared to us meeting with neighborhoods and other platforms that we have. But if you look at the bottom line, at the top side here, and it says, what is your top safety concern? And it's gun violence. Gun violence. If we go back to the traffic stops, This year alone, we've got over 300 guns, most of them from traffic stops. We have the high crime that we have and the homicides and the shootings that we have, and that's the number one concern that citizens have is how do we deal with this gun violence? If we also look at what would you like to see most with Kalamazoo Department of Public Safety to improve, increase the patrol cars in the community. Well, we're working on that as best as we can to make sure we and then community concerns. There is a section on this that we also provide to our department, to the officers, is the citizens' comments. You can go online, I think they might be still there, but sometimes citizens provide their names, which we have to protect identity. But we also get so many positive comments from citizens explaining how well the officers did during the traffic stop and how well they felt. And it's really very positive for the students. One thing I would ask that the board can help us with, my hope is that we're at 10% of responses. We need to get more. We can get more information from the community to find out what else can we do better. We've taken this information from professional standards to our training division, to our operations division, to every single division. We have meetings and we go over this and the chief says, okay, what can we do better from those 3 surveys, whether they've been dispatch or traffic stops, or even our internal survey. We're about to do another internal survey coming up this fall. Next question, please. And finally, it gives you the demographics that describe dealing with the 911 or the dispatch calls by gender and also by race. And I think I threw a whole lot at you in a very short amount of time. But I'd be happy to answer any questions, or Inspector Mason and I would be happy to answer any questions that you may have, any specifics. Thank you.
Thank you. Questions, please? Mr. Tolbert.
Just a comment. I gave that report on the Lambert Consulting LLC traffic stop in 2013 back in April. And I know that, it was a pretty devastating report.
Yeah.
And what the community has been asking for is what has been done since then. And I think today you have put in writing all the things that KPS has implemented and continue to implement. And I know that we're not where we want to be, but there has been a great deal, since in the last 10 years that, there's a lot more transparency. There's a lot of people who are trying to work with the community, and we know that it is dangerous out in the streets, a lot more than it was in 2013. So we appreciate you and the chief and the Department of Public Safety working with us. I know that when I gave my report, there were some pretty probably heads turning. What is he talking about? But my report was to get this report out in the open. Yeah. And I think you've done a good job doing that. I will be on this board for a couple more years, and I will continue to ask those questions and give a report, but I appreciate what you all are doing.
Thank you very much.
Other questions, please? Yes.
Did you say that you're going to continue the My 90?
Yes.
For how long, or a while?
We didn't ask how long. It was just, yeah, I think we're going to have, we like the results. We like the instant feedback. We're constantly improving. We're constantly contacting the third party to say, let's make this dashboard even better and better and better. And remember, we're one of the first ones in Michigan to do this. Now, other departments throughout Michigan is looking at how do they do My 90. So yes, we are going to continue.
Thank you. And, let's see, what else? There was something else I can't remember. Sorry.
Or maybe we can come back to it. Yeah. Other questions, please? Yes.
It's not a question, it's just a comment. Again, I think, thank you for providing the updates. And I know as we've talked before, there are sometimes it's a little difficult, I think, for citizens to be able to navigate the web page or the information that's out there. And so the more that you can link reports like the traffic study to what you've done, whether it's a summary page or something else that makes sense so that people can see very clearly, these were the concerns, this is what's been implemented or changed as a result of those concerns, so that there's a direct correlation between those, I think would be very helpful for the citizens.
And thank you. And then just to add on to that, we're very excited now is that we're looking at redoing, we got a test run of our new webpage for different, so to have more transparency and more communication. I think one of the things that we led off in that one point after the 2013, you saw the form of communication. So how does the department provide as much information as we can to the community as transparent as possible? So thank you.
Things have certainly changed a lot in the last 10 years since the 2013 traffic stop study. And we have all noticed a move towards data-driven policymaking and data-driven decisions by KDPS. And it's exemplified by the information that you've shared tonight, not only with this board, but with this community. And so we have said before that there has been a tremendous movement forward in transparency in our Office of Professional Standards. And I think the board appreciates the effort that you all have put in this regard. I do have a couple of questions. To be clear, the My 90 data stops, that was 1,800 stops approximately?
Yes, since April, yes, since the time we started the pilot program.
Right. And the
I'm sorry, a little over 1,800, you know.
Okay. Okay. The demographic information that's available in terms of race is only available on the individuals who responded to the survey.
Correct, because with the survey, correct. And on the survey, specifically asked specific races and ethnicities and et cetera.
So of the 1,800 stops, we don't have data that indicates the demographics of those individuals involved in those stops in terms of what percentage of black, white, et cetera, of our citizens were among those 1,800.
Yeah, so here's some of the challenges that departments have nationwide when we talk about gathering data. Yes, we have data as far as the, when officer does a traffic stop, you can fill out a contact sheet, or a contact sheet asks for additional information. So if I did a traffic stop and asked for your driver's license and gave you a citation, the information from the Michigan State driver's license would transfer over to what is called e-ticket. There you are. He's our traffic expert, so I'm going to have him. Yeah. So the e-ticket, and they transfer. Now, if you look at your driver's license, it does not have race on there. It has gender, has height, and has a few other things. So we, as officers, when they fill out, to get accurate information, you ask the citizen what the race is, or do you have to guess? A lot of time, officers will put unknown if they don't know. So that's a loophole that we have to figure out nationally. How do you laser right in to figure out who the person is. So to answer your question, Chairman, we have that information. The question is how accurate is it as far as when we're talking about race when it came to the officer receiving the...
Yes, understandable. But there are communities in the country, in our nation, that collect that data based on the officer's best judgment of that person's race. And they enter that data into their system with that caveat. But what's important is that it gives the department some sense of how their officers are making decisions to stop.
Yep.
That's what other departments are doing. And what I'm suggesting is that although the data may not be pinpoint accurate, it's important data to collect because it gives us some sense of who's being stopped.
Absolutely, and not only by gender and race, but the reason why they were stopped.
Right. Any other questions? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Next on our agenda are board member comments. I have just some brief comments to make that we didn't address earlier. As this is my final board meeting as chair, I specifically want to express my appreciation for the work that has been done by Ms. Vargas and Ms. Dusick. We have been able to expand the responsibilities of our subcommittees and provide more support and direction to our subcommittees as a result of their efforts. And that's a huge change over the past 6 years when we did not even have subcommittees. They did not exist. And so we understand that that adds to your workload. But at the same time, that's possible because of the support that we received from the city manager's office. So I want to publicly acknowledge our appreciation, my appreciation specifically for all you've done to move the needle for our community. Thank you so much.
I have a comment, and stop me if this is the actual form for it. But I went to the the annual carnival that they had 2 Saturdays ago in Lincoln, and set up a table and passing out information. And I was actually kind of surprised how many people stopped and did not know the board existed or didn't know the purpose. And so basically, this board is an advocate for the community. I guess I'm just curious what we can do to increase the presence so the board, so citizens know that this is an avenue to try and get concerns addressed. Because I mean, it's a wonderful board, but you know, a lot of the citizens, and some of the people are very prevalent in the community as well. So I was just kind of curious.
Others may have other thoughts, but I think it's important that we have a presence at those events that are sponsored by the city and by community organizations. I think it's important that those organizations understand that this board exists and the purpose of the board. But in my opinion, just as importantly, or more importantly, the information about the purpose of this board needs to get to the communities that are impacted by the decisions of this board. To me, that is an even greater priority. Today, the Kalamazoo Defender Office has, a month ago, offered office space, contact communication for this board to have a presence in the village. That's where people are going who are directly impacted by the decisions of this board. The Kalamazoo Defender provides representation for indigent defense in our community. Those are the people who really need our outreach. That offer of representation is still available through Melody Woods, who is the director of the village operations. And I think if I recall correctly, we did reach out to the board for participation in that effort to be represented there. But it's something that I think that we need to pay attention to. It's a wonderful opportunity to put information in front of those who are going to be mostly impacted. Any other comments? Yes.
As this is your last meeting, I'd like to, on behalf of the board, first say thank you for your dedication and your years of service, as well as Member Gardner. Both of you have been instrumental in the changes that we've seen as a result of what this board is doing and the outreach that we're engaged in. And as I'd said before, the train is on the tracks, we're moving, and we're going to continue to move based on that foundation that both of you have laid. So thank you. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you. Any other board comments? Yes, please.
I just have one for Chief Green and Kalamazoo Public Safety, just as a thank you for allowing me to partake in some ride-alongs. I've had a couple late nights with you guys, usually partaking from 7 p.m. Friday night to 2 a.m. Saturday morning. So seeing some exciting stuff on the streets, but just really want to commend your officers, and everything that I've experienced has been very positive. Seeing their interactions with citizens has been a really positive experience for me, and just getting to see your guys' lens of what you deal with on a day-to-day basis has been uplifting for me in a way, and just I think it's making a really positive impact on our community, the interactions that I have seen. So thank you guys for allowing me to partake in that, and I would encourage members of our board and to partake in that, and citizens as well, if that is something that you guys allow.
Thank you. Okay, it's time for citizens' comments. Comments, in-person citizen comments. Comments will be limited to 3 minutes. Any citizen president who would like to make a comment?
Good evening. My name is Dorphine Payne. I'm related to that guy up there. I just wanted to share with you, first to say how excited and proud I am of the work that this board has achieved over the last 6 years. I will say that in 2015, subsequent to a number of police and citizen-involved killings in this country, Eric Gardner, Sandra Bland, and then Trayvon Martin. The Trayvon Martin death occurred. Our pastor, sensing everybody's pain after that, and there being no accountability, called a group, about 50 black citizens from our community, from all walks of life, to come to church and have a conversation. We shared a lot of our pain during that black conversation, but many of them were leaders in our community, and our pastor had told us that what breaks our heart should motivate us to move in that direction. And he challenged us not just to talk about it, but do something about it. And those of us who were complaining about systemic problems in the school system and the government and all over the community, we were encouraged to move in those directions. One of the people in our group said, I've decided that I'm going to address systemic problems in the criminal legal system. And there were those of us who joined in and said, me too. And we formed a group under Vernon Payne's leadership. And being he has a gift of administration. and being a gift of leadership, whether he's a point guard or heading up a department at a university or in the community, he always rises to the top and leads. And he took leadership over our group. And of course, we were making data-driven decisions, and we made our decision of what we wanted to do based upon that survey, that report, that traffic study report. And we decided that we would ask that there was already a citizens public safety review board that had begun in the early 2000s and went defunct. But we had decided that we wanted to not just reinstate that board, but do more. And at that point, we started meeting with the city and proposed, provided the city with a proposal. And the city and the leadership in the city worked with us for a year and a half. The chief at that time, the city attorney, the city manager's office, city commissioners all worked with us for a year and a half to drum out what we could do to reinstitute and go further with a new board. And that, of course, was under Vernon Payne's leadership. And so we did that, and we did establish this board. So, and of course, he rose to the top again and became the chair. I'm so proud of the work that he and this board has done. It's very exciting that on the last night here, we got this wonderful transparency report and the My 90 report. It's very exciting. And I want to thank, not just as a community, as a citizen, I not only want to thank my husband for his leadership, but the board for all of your hard work. I know you worked hard. I know he's worked hard, and he's relentless. He's relentless in bringing people along. So I know how hard you've all worked too, and I want to express my pride and my gratitude. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate the comments very much. Any other in-person citizens' comments? Okay. How about call-in comments?
I'm checking on that now, Chair Payne. There are no call-in comments, Chair Payne.
Thank you. Notifications, please.
I'd like to take a moment before Chair Payne proceeds to announce the upcoming meetings and adjourn tonight's meeting. I'd like to take a moment to recognize and thank Chair Payne and Member Gardner for their years of service to the Citizens Public Safety Review and Appeals Board and our community. Matters brought before the board were always carefully deliberated with grace, seriousness, and dedication. This is, sadly, the final board meeting of their terms. It has been an honor to work with both of you. I would also like to take this opportunity to announce on behalf of the City Manager, Jim Ritzema, the appointment of Susan Stapleton as the Chair of the Citizens Public Safety Review and Appeals Board starting October 1. Susan is in the third year of her first term as a board member. Please help me both congratulate Susan as well as thank Vernon and Curtis.
Thank you, Ms. Ducey. The next board meeting will be October 10th, 2023, of course. There will be board orientation and subcommittee work session, which will be closed. Following that meeting, there will be a November 14th 2023 meeting of the board. It's been my pleasure. I entertain a motion to adjourn.
I second. I'll second your motion.
Thank you. It's been moved and seconded that we adjourn. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
So long. It's been a great journey. We're adjourned.
Peace and love.